Welcome back, listeners, to the Mindful Living podcast, where we explore strategies for leading a meaningful, balanced, and thriving life. I'm your host, Sana, and today we are turning the spotlight onto a guest who is as inspiring as she is dynamic. Joining us is the one and only Francesca Amante, a powerhouse entrepreneur, coach, author, and National Vice President of Junior Chamber International. Listeners, with over 20 years of competitive figure skating and dance, a thriving business empire, and a knack for empowering people to reach their full potential, Francesca is here to share her insights on mindset, leadership, and discipline. Oh, and did I mention she's just 30? Yeah, just 30. Buckle up, listeners, because this conversation is going to leave you energized and ready to conquer the world. Francisca, welcome to this show, and it's an absolute honor having you with us today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. What a beautiful introduction. So much passion in the words that you said. Thank you for all of your kind words. And I feel equally grateful to be here. I really appreciate your show, what you do, and the impact that you spread and create everywhere.
Thank you. Thank you, Francisca, for your kind words. And, to begin with, as someone who transitioned from competitive sports to entrepreneurship, how has your mindset evolved to help you excel in both arenas?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. I would say that it's really easy to be motivated, right? And say, oh, I'm so motivated to do this, or we get inspired, but it's really the discipline that keeps that consistency and that sustainability for years and years to come. So, obviously as a competitor, but also as a coach as well, through the figure skating and dance arena, I got to see firsthand that, yes, there are many incredible competitors that would take the stage or take the arena per se. But then a year or two would pass, and of course that passion would kind of flutter away, and we started to notice their dip in performance. And what it came down to is that in the seasons of their life where everything was exciting and was, brought with passion, this, that, the other, they were able to sustain that. But unfortunately, and I love the fact that your podcast is all about a healthy mind, that's, mindfulness and really, really being intentional of how we're taking care of ourselves. If we're prone to burnout, which all of us human beings are, if we're not taking certain acts of discipline to not only just work hard and propel our success, but also that discipline to say today is a rest day, or I am taking an hour every single day, like myself every day, I try to implement breath work or gratitude journaling, something that is fueling myself. And a lot of things in this day-to-day world, especially in a sport or perhaps as an entrepreneur, is draining our battery. Even if it might be fulfilling, it still is draining our battery to an extent. So do we have the discipline to give back and refill our battery with the things that are going to propel us forward? And that way it's not a burning, a little candle that's going to burn out. It's something that's sustainable over time.
Wow. Wow, Francisca, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And also, you are a certified behavioral elements guide. So, how do you leverage your knowledge of behavioral understanding to foster better leadership and also team dynamics?
Absolutely. So it's really interesting with the behavioral elements. I came across all of this when I had met their CEO back about 5 years ago. And right away, I had bought one of their behavioral elements planners and was part of that kind of first initial process, just cheering on the team and watching from afar across the world of what they were doing, specifically around the 2020 mark when the world kind of shifted in a couple different ways. And as the years have went on, I guess it would have been in 2024 that through reuniting with the team and getting to see them in person and meet a lot of the faces that I had seen online, I actually ended up getting asked if I wanted to become a certified behavior elements guide. And through that, I was able to really, deepen my understanding of what they are doing and what their goal is through those elements. So for any of you that don't know about those particular behavioral elements, essentially out there in the world, there are many, many personality tests that we can take, and they're all wonderful. They all serve their purpose. But what's interesting about the behavioral elements assessment is that it's not measuring your personality, which a lot of doctors say is quite concrete by the age of 6 years old, which is really, really interesting. By that age of 6, typically your personality is going to kind of give you that outline of that coloring book of life, so to speak, in which we're going to be coloring within the lines of. However, with our behavior, we're dealing a little bit more with neuroplasticity. So we're dealing with change, growth, development, and that constant evolution of becoming our best selves. We can say every day, well, this is just how I'm choosing to be. Or we can say, you know what? I recognize that that's maybe a behavior I don't need to keep propelling forward. And perhaps there's room for change. And that's where that neuroplasticity comes in. So with the behavior elements itself, there's 4 different elements. So they've pretty much constructed under fire, air, earth, and water. So we've got the drive to win with the fire and to acquire. We've got the drive to bond with the water element, the drive to defend with the earth element, and then the air element is more about the drive to learn, the innovation, and kind of keeping that passion for learning alive. So it's really interesting why I've been able to cultivate that into whether it be my management consulting, my coaching, or my speaking career, is really understanding the more that we're able to understand of ourselves, of course, we're able to understand others. And we have much more compassion as we move and breathe through the world, because we're able to look at someone and go, oh my gosh, they're not acting out because of this, this, and this. We recognize it's probably not an external circumstance, it's something internal within them that they're projecting outward. And I think why I personally love this particular I guess, resource with the behavioral elements assessment and all of the resources that, the behavioral scientist has done on the background to develop it and test it and put it to the test all over the world, is really getting to understand that if I'm in a boardroom and I'm talking to executives, or I'm helping a large brokerage with their culture, with their sales, with their marketing, or whatever company I am helping to assist, or perhaps I'm just speaking on stage, one way or another, what this has helped me to do is if we're able to very, very clearly articulate to our audience, or perhaps to a team, of why their people are doing what they're doing, very quickly it becomes less of a personal attack with, like, oh, if a managing broker per se goes, I don't understand why Johnny's not performing the way that he should. He's so talented, blah, blah, blah. When we're able to really look at what their behavior is telling us and what the drive of their behavior is, often that person really means the best and they are wanting to work the hardest they can. It might be that they're just led maybe in a way that's not relating to them. Because if someone has a high drive to bond and really loves connection and wanting to give to their team and whatever, but maybe the manager, their drive is money and acquiring, and they're more of a fire element, they're incentives that are giving that person that's a drive to bond, they're not going to see eye to eye, because one is wanting to help people, other one's wanting to cultivate the greater dollar sign. So I think it's just really cool when we're able to, I know it's a lot to digest, but when we're able to kind of break it down and understand why we do the things that we do, and ask the question, like, why am I the way I am? Everything starts to simplify. And I've really found that to be an incredible tool. So that way I can not only better understand myself, but better serve my clients and the people that are around me.
Wow. Wow. I mean, that's so innovative and different, understanding and associating with the basic elements, fire, water, earth, and air as well. I think that's something very, very innovative and creative, and I think has a great, great recall value. Um, Also, Francisca, discipline is a hallmark of your journey, whether in skating or building a business, that too at such a young age. So, of course, there has to be discipline. What are your top strategies for cultivating and sustaining discipline even during challenging times?
Thank you. I would say the greatest component of that for me would be the little micro habits. And I think sometimes it's the perfect time of year to be discussing this. It's earlier on in the year. And very, very easily and very quickly, we can make all these large goals. We can, discuss, okay, I've got this goal, that goal, whatever it is for the entire year. But really, really quickly, sight of, like, well, how do I get there? Maybe someone wants to, cultivate, maybe make a big empire of their business, or they're wanting to, achieve X, Y, and Z. But we kind of forget that it's all little small habits that add up every single day that are going to get us there. And I think what's funny is that, some people have said to me, even on social media throughout the years, I remember around the time I was 25, there was a couple of big milestone moments I had hit in my career, and they're like, oh, it's so easy for you, Francesca, like, blah, blah, blah. And I had said to them, I said, I recognize that on social media, it may look easy. However, what you don't see are the 10 to 15 consistent habits that I do with now every single day that have gotten me there. So some of them were not innate in me. Some of those habits were really tough to actually start and cultivate. I actually have an app on my phone that tracks the habits that I do, and is
Mhm.
very easy to kind of track. Okay, yes, I did this day or I didn't. And through that, what I found really powerful is that I was able to actually really see, okay, where were the gaps in my habits? There's certain things that I do now, we are talking about healthy mind, a healthy body, or that mindfulness. Little
Mhm.
things like taking my vitamins and my supplements every morning, or drinking my greens juice, or having a protein shake and getting that sufficient nutrients so my brain and my body can probably properly fuel me throughout the day. Some of those things I had to really, whether you put your vitamins beside your toothbrush so that way you don't forget. And
Mhm.
eventually that little habit becomes like, I don't even have to think about it, whether I'm traveling around the world or I'm here at home. It doesn't matter. Those vitamins are taken every morning and every night. And then, of course, expanding on that, whether, say if you're wanting to go for a walk every day, so that way, you're not just bombarded at the office sitting in the same chair for 12 hours. Maybe you take little breaks throughout the day to go for that walk or get on the bike. I've found that kind of keeping the habit but reducing the scope is really powerful. So if I don't feel like going for a half an hour walk, what I might do is still put my runners on and go outside, even if it's for like 2 minutes. But what happens is when I've kept the habit but reduced the scope, it's telling my brain, you're still going to do this every day. Maybe it's not going to be for as long, but the habit remains the same. My shoes still went on my feet, and I still walked to at least the end of the driveway or at the end of the road. And what this is, it's not giving me an opportunity to lose the habit, because within 2 or 3 days of stopping a habit, the percentage like of us actually getting back on that habit drops down to like a 20% chance. We lose our consistency. And I think that's the discipline, at least for me, that's become really apparent in my life, are those micro habits throughout the day, every single day. And also to reviewing what my goals are. On my 29th year, I was very incessant on what I wanted to achieve. And I had
Mhm.
some goals. I wrote them month to month. I had it all on my big whiteboard in my office. And it wasn't something that I necessarily, dug into my head every day, but I could see it. When I was at my desk, it was something that I could look at, that I viewed, whether subconsciously or consciously, I was aware of it. By the end of that year, I achieved all of those goals. Some of them were really out there. They still happened. And it made me realize, I was like, wow, it is so powerful when you write down and just, month to month review, like, what is it that I have as a goal? Because I think it's really easy for us to, get through the middle of the year and go, oh my gosh, it's April. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. You know, I'm sure you've heard of this expression, but the definition of insanity is doing something over and over again, but expecting a different result. And I know personally that I have had moments in my life where I'm like, I want to change this, but am I willing to put in the effort to change it? So, my greatest advice to the audience out there that's trying to cultivate that discipline so that way their goals and what they're trying to achieve becomes a sustainable outcome is really just looking at what is it that I'm doing every day that's driving me towards those results, or what am I doing every day that's driving me away from them? Because if there's more things on that list that are driving us away from those results, we've got a good indication we're not really helping ourselves out. We're just sabotaging the process.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Also, what, in your opinion, sets apart exceptional leaders from good ones? Can you share an example from your own career?
Of course. And that's such a great question. I love that. It's interesting because I think it's like how we say, love is in the eyes of the beholder, or beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. I think that, you could probably ask 10 different people what an exceptional leader is to them, and you probably will get a bit of a different answer between those 10 people. But I think there often is a common denominator with that, and it's we want to feel inspired by the leader that we're leading, or that we're following, I should say. And I think what ends up happening is that there's actually, I believe, is his named Jeff Weiner. He's a great motivational speaker. One time he said, in I think it was a book that Oprah had quoted him, and he said,
Mm.
you know, management is telling someone what to do, but leadership is inspiring them to do it. And I think he had mentioned something along the lines of a great leader in his mind is having someone that has the courage of their own conviction, the clarity of their vision, and having the ability to communicate both of those things really, really well. And I
Mhm.
think what ends up happening with a lot of leaders that are good, don't get me wrong, but they end up getting really, really caught up in what is best for them. And they kind of make them, I don't know if you've heard of the book, The Mountain is You, but kind of they end up making the mountain them. It's like, everything has to come through me and I'm the
Yeah.
one that makes all the decisions. I think sometimes a really exceptional leader, one that goes above and beyond that good or great mark, is someone who really kind of has the trust in their team, whether or not they fail, to take a step back and go, you know what? Whether or not my team is going to get this in this moment, I have to take a step back and allow them to do what I have entrusted them to do. Sometimes they're going to come to you and go, "Oh my gosh, I failed at that miserably." But they're still going to learn something really exceptional about what they can do better next time. And if we are, as leaders, are always getting in the way of our team, of saying, "Oh, well, I'm going to review that," or whatever, and everything is very sticky in that capacity, what ends up happening is that they don't ever really get to see their fullest potential because they never really given the opportunity to fully step into that. So I think, in my opinion, an exceptional leader is definitely someone who inspires people to follow them, not just because they were told, but when they see you living and breathing, whether it's the company values or that kindness, that respect, and that loyalty, not just through your words, but through your actions, all of a sudden those people around you are really going to start to go, well, just because Bob said we should follow him, it's not even about that anymore. It's like, I want to be like Bob. He's kind, he's compassionate, he's amazing to every single person on our team. When we're able to see that firsthand, we go, oh, wow, like he really is a good person. I want to be more like him. And I've noticed, at least for me, whether it was through coaching figure skating or whether it's, me leading different groups or teams, I was an executive years ago at a very young age, and I remember very distinctly certain consultants that we trained, they would say to me and to some of the others on the group, I want to be more like you. Can you help me become more like you? That is probably the best compliment we can get as a leader, knowing that it's not just what we're telling them, but we're really showing them and we're living that fully.
True, true. That's 500% true. Also, Francesca, some people argue that a competitive mindset it fosters growth, while others believe it creates unnecessary stress or maybe burnout and rivalry. So, where do you stand and how do you strike a balance?
I absolutely love these questions that you're asking. They're so good. This one in particular, and you're right. It's definitely a controversial topic at times because there's so many people that I knew that go, "Oh gosh, being competitive, it keeps you moving forward, this, that, the other." And, a lot of people can argue I was a competitive figure skater and dancer for, the better part of 20 years. Would I not have some form of a competitive spirit within me? Yes, but at the same time, no. There was a part of me, and I think this is where the distinguishing factor is. I think to be competitive within yourself, powerful. To be competitive with others, it's an absolute trap for misery, comparison, and self judgment and judgment of others. So, where I have found myself on that scale is I am competitive with myself. Every day, I want to be better than how I was before or how I was yesterday. If I am constantly trying to become a better person than I was the day before, I know I am learning something. I know that I'm propelling myself forward. The second that I start comparing myself to someone on social media or somebody else on a team or whatever, it just sets you up for failure. And very, very quickly, I found, even if we were to use the competitive figure skating world as an example, what I started to find, what I started to find was, pardon me, was the fact that there were so many um, incredible, talented athletes that got so caught up in the mental game that they played within themselves of, oh my gosh, I'm not as good as so and so, or she's gonna get gold and I'm gonna get silver, or whatever the inner dialogue was. And at the end of the day, they were so incredible that if they had just let all that get out of their mind and just focus on themselves and how they can be better, oh my gosh, they wouldn't have been tripped up so much in their head. So I think oftentimes a lot of, we say like at the time it's, 80% mental, 20% physical in terms of that, success, especially as an athlete. So I would say if you're out there listening to this and perhaps you're wondering, should I be a bit more competitive within myself? If you want to continue to compete within yourself, perfect. Be better than you were yesterday. That will always drive you forward, but also just make sure you have grace for yourself. There's going to be seasons where perhaps we're not as good as we were yesterday. Maybe there's something really tough that we need to learn and grow through. That's okay. Part of the journey. Just the only thing I caution, having a competitive spirit with anybody else but you is it's a recipe for disaster, because no one else can be you, and that is why every individual is special in their own way, and no one can compete against that.
True, true. That's really beautiful. That's a really good answer, Francesca. And also, with such a multifaceted career, how do you maintain balance while also staying focused on your goals?
Oh, that's a good one. It's funny because I think there has been seasons where, I've had close friends or even like my coaches in my life say to me like, Francesca, like, how do you balance everything? And you know what? There's been seasons where there hasn't really been an abundance of balance. It's just go, 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 and let's get all this done. But as I get older, I've definitely realized the importance and how vital it is to maintain and cultivate that balance. And I think what it comes down to is just recognizing that everything else will fall into place if we're taking care of ourselves. Kind of going back to the theme of your podcast. If we are not being mindful of our health, our well-being, our mind, our whatever it is, our energy, our time, and really understanding what we're a yes for and what we're a no for, very, very quickly, we can get so caught up in our business that our relationships and the friendships around us start to falter, whatever that may be. Or perhaps we're just really burnt out. Maybe our business is still thriving, but we're a very burnt out individual at that point. So my greatest advice, and at least something that I'm trying to cultivate in the last several years, is really understanding every day there's a place for everything. There's going to be a certain chunk of my day that I focus on my business and I really, really propel that forward. Then there's a time where I give myself permission to rest. There might be a time where I say, okay, I haven't called this friend in a while. I'm going to call them and catch up and say hi, or make sure I have quality time with my partner. That's really, really important. And I think, at least for me growing up as an athlete, it was not glorified to rest. That was actually something that was kind of frowned upon. If you were ever resting, or it just implied that you were weak, and it just implied that you were not strong enough. And unfortunately, that took me many, many years to unlearn. And I think it was probably my 2023 and 2024 were the two big years that I was able to kind of almost reset my nervous system and recognize I don't have to feel guilty because I'm resting. If I decide to sleep in because my body needs that extra rest, there's probably a good reason for it. And I don't need to feel like I'm unproductive because of it. So I think really, really maintaining that balance is so important.
True, true. That's absolutely right. And before we wrap up, you are deeply committed to empowering individuals and organizations alike. So, what's one piece of advice you will give to those who are looking to unlock their leadership potential?
Oh, let me think of what the one piece of advice would be. I would probably say something along these lines. Every single day when you wake up, if you can write down, maybe today, if you're listening to this podcast, write down a list of all the things that you're a yes for. Maybe you're a yes for inspiring others, helping others to be their best selves. Maybe you're really talented at whatever your niche is, but write down everything that you're a yes for. Write down everything that you're a no for, the things that drain your energy, the things that, do not bring you joy. Get really, really clear on that. And every single day following that, get really, get really, really clear within yourself. Am I doing the things that are bringing me closer to my yes? Because what ends up happening sometimes is we do the things that we think we should be doing. And by the time we know, we start to lose ourselves, and we start to kind of lose the passion and the beauty that shines within us. And I think that if we're able to get really clear, especially at the start of a new year like we are in right now, make your goal this year to continue to do the things that bring you joy. Because if you are getting up every day to do a job that brings you joy, happiness, and fulfillment, oh my gosh, the world is your oyster. There are so many opportunities that will open up to that, because your energy is so succinct with what you're doing and what you're cultivating. So That'd be my greatest advice. Get really clear on what your passion is, what your purpose is. And if you don't know, experiment with it, see what feels right. You will start to identify, this is my passion, this is my purpose. That's what I suggest, moving towards. And you'd be surprised at how many incredible things start to fall into place after that. And whether you're an entrepreneur or you're someone who has a large business or company, or maybe you're someone that's just starting off, um, those are the things that are going, when you look back at your life's journey, knowing that you were doing something that not only helped other people but really made you happy inside. I think that's truly the definition of a life that was well lived.
Wow. Wow. What a beautiful piece of advice, Francesca. And I think it's a perfect conclusion to this conversation. And of course, if our listeners would wish to connect with you and, you follow your journey or check out your work at Amante Company, how they can do that.
And thank you for you're an incredible podcast host. My goodness. So thank you for having me on here. For any of the audience members that want to get in touch with me, my Instagram is a really handy way to do that. So my Instagram handle, the handle itself is Fresca Amante. So Fresca Amante, Amante. My full name you'll see on there once you're on the page says Francesca Amante. I'm on LinkedIn as well as Francesca Amante. And also my website, it's francescaamante.ca. So Francescaamante. And I would absolutely love to connect with any of you out in the audience.
Lovely, lovely. We'll have all the details and the links mentioned in the show notes for our listeners to reach out to you, Francesca. And thank you so much for this incredible conversation, for sharing your inspiring journey, as an award-winning entrepreneur, public speaker. I think you have given us a lot of actionables to take away, on leadership and also about how to navigate through life personally and professionally. And you prove that success is all about mindset and dedication. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. What a beautiful way to start the day. And I really, really appreciate your incredible interview. Can't wait to hear it go live.
Lovely, lovely. So, listeners, if you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to reach out to Francesca. You can refer the show notes along with this episode. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave us a review because it helps us bring more amazing guests like Francesca to the show. Until next time, remember to stay mindful, lead with purpose, and live your best life. See you soon.